Hello, I'm Ace the Supervillain. Today I'm going to teach you how to do actual sketching with the mouse. So previously we did a drawing of inking and coloring based on this character, but we started with this pencil sketch. Today I want to actually show you how to go from just a blank page totally with the mouse. So you're living in some tyrannical country where paper and pencil have been outlawed. And also and you don't have enough for a tablet. This is how we can do it. So this is very tricky. There's a lot of art fundamentals that go into it. So like ultimately, if you can follow the fundamentals, then you can do this. Um, uh, so basically, yes. Like if we try and just like go in here, draw a person, even me, and I do this often enough, it's hard. It's hard to get this right. Um, so we need to like really, we need to really be careful about it. And that's kind of the thing. The sort of the strength of the mouse is that kind of forces you to take your time and go slow, and that's absolutely great for inking and coloring. And it's really incredibly frustrating when you're trying to sketch something because in general, if you want to sketch, you want to put ideas on paper quickly um, to get it out there. So first of all, let's talk about our tool. So we're going to keep the smooth stroke on, but we want to really decrease the potency. You don't want it completely off, but like it does sort of kind of affect it. So we want to like be able to get in there and do it quickly. A couple of warm-ups is helpful, like I'm doing now. So like that doesn't have to be related to it, but it's helpful to have drawn that. One of the main things about drawing is that you should figure out what you're going to do first. Now, when you're just kind of randomly drawing in your notebook, it is sort of simple enough to just kind of do whatever you have in your head. But it actually, if you are trying to be like better about it, it absolutely pays off to really think this through. So what I like to do is to kind of break down our process into multiple steps. So step one is, I think, you can do these steps in any order. For us, step one is going to be the character because we already did that. I like her. I think we're going to make that our character again. I might do, so for simplicity's sake, we might put her in a t-shirt or something so that I don't have to draw as many stripes and whatnot. But yeah, so I can kind of go slow. So when you're doing characters, or cartoon characters, I guess, we're starting out with what's called the bean. So I kind of feel like if I do, oh, let's talk about the brush actually for a second. So you can see I have the acrylic brush there, which is giving me that kind of wispy texture. And actually, I don't want to draw with black. I want to draw with graphite color. Actually, since I have the graphite open, I can just do that. Yeah. It's kind of green on that one. I think my other pencils used to, or maybe it's because it was my scanner, used to come across this purple. And basically this is because I want to put my brain fully into thinking this is a sketch. This is not the final thing, because I have a tendency, if I'm drawing like this, I'm thinking like, maybe I can just do it and like that'll be it, right? But the problem is, that's not good enough. I'm not doing a good enough job. Like I need to force myself to take the time to do it right. Okay. So for one thing, zooming way the heck in on the screen that you're working on, I think is very helpful. Let's see, let's get a picture of the acrylic. Decrease our size. I think a nice thin one is good. So yeah, so typically, is that where her things are? So we want to draw our character in like a nice neutral position. And I get that part of why I can go kind of slowly and carefully with this is because I have something to work off of. Like if you really can't ever draw anything, that's going to be tricky. Like if you can draw it but just can't like get it onto your computer, that's okay. You can do kind of like this, except looking at the other page, you just look at it sitting on your desk or wherever it is. Let's do like that. Do just kind of a blank expression because this isn't the real thing. What's this here? And it could certainly be helpful to draw from an existing character. Like you want to make, fan art of Link and Sonic the Hedgehog teaming up to fight Spider-Man, then that's maybe actually a pretty good idea. Let's see. So part of it is this design isn't really intended for being seen head on. Don't feel bad about redrawing it. In fact, you should plan to redraw it because we're absolutely going to redraw it. Okay. So the eraser, I want kind of more of this kind of eraser. Yeah, and sometimes I would actually take the opacity down like this. So it's more like a, more like erasing with the pencil. It doesn't quite do everything. You can also take that idea, let's do incremental. You can also take that idea with your, with the brush. Yeah, this is where it's. Get it in there. Let's move this over actually. More of a side do. It looks better. Of course, it's like the opposite of how this one is because of how we turned it, but I don't know, because this is my vacation from working in 3D. In 3D, you absolutely cannot do that. So this is kind of like I'm tempted to let it happen. If we were doing something like animation, you absolutely still cannot do that because your animation needs to make sense. Not absolutely cannot do that. Like Butch Hartman could do that. Avatar: The Last Airbender, you couldn't do that. There you go. So like a little. Yeah, sometimes it's better to make your new line before you erase the old line. So I certainly have a habit of making the hair too big. Let's see, should it floof out like that? Yeah, it could. And go a little tighter in here. This is a little wacky. I'm kind of go in here and stuff like that. All right. Eyebrows. Yeah, some cartoons skip the eyebrows. I personally think they're very important. You have incomplete character without eyebrows. They're very good at being expressive, which is the main thing here. Okay. So let's see. All right, so bean bod. Actually, flip one. No, let's not do the bean bod. Let's do height. So if we're really like being anal, I guess, about our character design, we want to decide how many. Let's see. Actually, I guess the head would start here. We want to think about our proportions very carefully. So this character has more or less normal human body proportions. While I was doing like Tyrannosaurus characters that would be like kind of like these really like kind of bottom heavy like that. And then like little arms. Like that, tail. This one we settled on just kind of like a normal baseline thing. If I were going to get at with making animal people or doing like really bodily diverse characters, like something like Despicable Me, where people have kind of wild designs. You know, it's good to like think about how to like where your maximum and minimum things are. So like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like, you know, what are they famous for? You know, big head, strong legs, itty bitty arms. And so something like an Allosaurus, compared to a human being, which is what we mentioned it in the previous videos. This is what she's supposed to be. She's an Allosaurus. They do have horns. Tiny, like smaller than that, but they're cute. So like, yeah. So compared to you or me, an Allosaurus still has that same relative body build. You know, big head, tiny arms. But if I think an Allosaurus build is still kind of normal for theropods, right? Like there are ones with longer arms and there's one with shorter arms. The Allosaurus is kind of right there in the middle. So because it's right there in the middle, I would kind of cast that as the is sort of more of an average human build. And obviously there's differences, so she's still kind of got like muscles because you think of, you know, predators as being like big and beefy. So yeah, so normally I would also like kind of decide on a body proportion. I'm going to be uninteresting here and decide that a normal human body proportion is probably correct. I imagine for the majority of you want human body proportions anyways, and not wacky Tyrannosauruses or kangaroos or whatever. So yeah. So anyways, think about that. Like, don't just like jump into it, but like, yeah. So okay. So next is heads tall. So let's do another little diagram down here. We can zoom in actually. Also, when you're drawing a stick figure, don't draw like a stick for a body. Draw a box. Okay. I should have measured this, but so we measure this as. So we need Yes. Cannot handle stick figures. Okay. I'm just gonna think. Among other things, yeah, because you can think to yourself like, oh yeah, and just use the stick figure to work out the proportions. It's really hard to judge proportions correctly while you're doing stick figures. Okay, so your head. So head is like that much. So actually, I have no idea. Also, wait, this is a computer. Don't guess. That's right. All right, never mind. Guess. So you could obviously, my point being that you could measure this more precisely. That looks right. All right, about that many heads. Oh, I know how they do this. This is how they do this. Copy the actual head. See how correct I was. I was not very correct, although I do have a bunch of neck here too. Yeah, all right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. All right, they're both equal because I think there's like a little, like this goes further, but there's a little diagram. All right. Anyways, point is, this guy is roughly 6 heads tall. This is at the higher end of realism, and in drawing tends to be kind of starting to be more in the heroic proportions. So like a really, I think you've seen these, like a really baby character. You know, the chibi is only 2 heads tall. Actually, chibis are more like 1.5 head tall, but I'm not getting into it. Not talking about chibis. 4 heads tall. You're doing like child characters or like really small cutesy ones. So that's how you do a freaking stick figure. You get up into like, it's too much. 8 heads tall, and this is totally relative. So different art styles do it differently. Sailor Moon, in particular, many heads tall. Scooch these guys over here. Let's do an 8 head tall kind of person. Yeah. So the waist would be like here. A little bit more higher. And he's just like, he's wearing pants or something. That's too much. Yeah. So he's like more like that. Like I think in Sailor Moon, that's like a Darien, or like the Scouts themselves are very leggy. So you do like a leggy build. So this would be kind of like less torso. That might still be not enough. Also, like their heads are still like smaller than the ones. Excuse me. That was a no. What have I done? So we're learning to draw with the mouse. We're mostly learning art fundamentals here. Well, and which I said, like, I was asking people, or kind of discussing how to do this. I said, drawing with a mouse, it's 10% mouse specific and 90% fundamentals. Yeah. So it's like we're not going to do feet. All right. Yeah, like a sail around bow thing. You know the one. This is also like, yeah, this is just, I'm doing too much, but this is relaxing. And it's good warm up for doing the real thing. Yeah, anyways, as you can see, get that out of there, like that kind of. So like tall, lanky build, 8 heads tall. It can be, so like if you're in a universe filled with people like this looks kind of weird and freakish. If you're just kind of looking at these on their own, they just look kind of like idyllic. Also, heads tall is not necessarily relative, right? So like they could be more or less the same height as this guy. But just with a different build. And so like, you know, like we're just kind of have our bits in different places compared to that. Anyways, so yes, so we're designing a character. We should, one of the main proportional things that you should decide upon, how many heads tall is the character? What are you trying to convey with this character? Like, how do you want the audience to feel about them, right? Like, you, so yeah, so like that. So like, you're probably going to feel very different about this guy getting kidnapped compared to this guy getting kidnapped, right? Yeah. Think about it. All right. So for the character that we have, an Allosaurus, we probably do want something closer up to these kind of higher head to body ratios. Let's make her look less worried. I'm feeling like guilty for some reason when I look at her. All right, good. Kind of mildly amused there. Yeah. Anyways, yes, this is probably something more like this is what we're aiming for. Also note that heads tall is not necessarily and all of how to do body proportions. Like certainly between, so like obviously if you're being like Allosauruses and T-Rexes, then yes, you can, or Despicable Me characters, your body proportions can be all over the place. You can really have fun with them. Even in normal human builds, not all human beings are like have the same body proportions. It's what makes us different. So like some people, yes, absolutely have proportionally longer legs or longer arms or whatever. It's the kind of thing it's great to like look at pictures of people and kind of figure these things out. So yeah, all right. So we want. So 8 looks pretty good there. Let's go with 8. So let's measure it this way. So yeah, so we have like the top of her head. or at the top of her hair, I think it was kind of poofing up over the actual skull. In general, I think, yeah, we do want this to be the skull. And is that it? Ooh, this looks crazy tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, yeah, that looks crazy tall. Like that looks better to me. You know what? I'm a liar. I've said everything wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Part of like, yeah, what I should have done is like taken this and try and measure how many heads tall she is. Because now that I look at her, actually, yeah, like she's probably not very many heads. So it's tricky because she's exposed. So like one, like that part of it. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like she's barely 5. Yeah. Well, and probably, yeah, you could probably squeeze in an extra head from if she was standing up straight. Okay. Okay. Let's just get the horns in there. We got the horns. I don't know if they call them horns on an Allosaurus. They call them like brow crests or something. I feel like I've heard them call horns. So there you go, horns. Alright. Okay. Let's maybe call it 5.5. You don't actually need to be a whole number of heads tall. Okay. Look at that. Alright, so now we draw the bean. You've seen me do it a couple of times. It's kind of an hourglassy shape. Should we explain that? So it's kind of a cartoon shaped bean. This is one of many ways to do it. So like a male bean would be like that. Like a really kind of macho guy here. This is some of the other dinosaurs were more like that. Well, actually, because not a lot of dinosaurs are like that. Like most critters in general have pretty short legs. Like human beings have longer legs than most animals. Leave the tail. There you go. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So yeah, and then you can do kind of more of an average bean. You do like a less hourglassy bean, but you kind of want to avoid being too straight because it's boring. You do like a really hipsy bean, which is basically that shape turned upside down. Which is actually still like really hipsy bean. There you go. There you go. You've met that person. All right. Yeah, and yeah. So this is just kind of a more lifelike body shape than trying to do that. Okay. So then what we do is we draw in the shoulder joint. Depending on how well you did your bean, you can add an extra ball to be the hips. Another way to do this actually, let's show you that way. I'm going to lose some of my neck, but that's okay. Another way to do this is to draw thing for the torso, or for the like the rib cage, and then some chest, and then, or not chest. What do you call it? The bit under the chest. Then the hips. Do the shoulder joint, which you can tell me is not ball shaped, but I don't know, man. So down here, the hip joint, getting wiggly. And so personally, it's much easier to get them to the right height if I have something to aim for. I think the rib cage is a bit short. Let's do it this way. Scooch that down there. Skip that. Correct over that. Yeah. Give it the shoulders, and that kind of goes down there. It's kind of leg shapes, feet. This is, especially when you're doing animal characters, the thigh to shin ratio is a kind of an important thing. Longer shins tend to be better for running, longer thighs tend to be better for like being sturdy. So something like a Triceratops, you'd want to make those longer. For something like an Allosaurus, this is great. They always like kind of going back and forth about whether or not Allosauruses were really like chasing down their prey like lions, or if they were like hiding out. One of the fun theories about Allosauruses out there is that they had, you know what? I'm gonna pussy out on the arm. Yeah, so one of the theories is because they seem to be able to unhinge their jaw like a snake. One idea is that they might have been going after giant sauropods, unhinging for a big bite, and then scramming. So they're basically like a mosquito. They just kind of go over there, chomp, and then run, and it doesn't kill the sauropod, or if it does, it's because it like gets infected and takes a week or something. So yeah, it's like a really interesting thing that no modern predators do. So there you go. All right, and we would come in here, ideally, kind of get rid of these unhelpful lines. Make sure that like our knees are in the same place, because knees work if they're uneven. Details like that. So also, like, yeah, I don't know if I'm like adding any input into how I'm like actually making these lines, because I feel like you just kind of like go slow. I believe I told you that in the previous thing about inking, is that it's easier to make a line if you know like where it's going to go. So like if I say like I want to go from here to here, great, easy. If I make it and just like don't know where I'm going, then it tends to screw up or get squiggly. I have enough smooth stroke on to prevent that if I'm trying to. Okay, all right. So yeah, there we go. So so we made a t-shirt this one. I guess also shorts. Going to be little summer shorts. A little bit slightly cropped up. There's a crop top up there. I don't know. It is what it is. There we go. Erase these inside ones. If you are making yourself a reference sheet, you should definitely do it. Kind of like multiple versions of this, like copy the original and have put her in like a couple different potential outfits. If it's the kind of like, assuming it's not like a one-time drawing. Put him in a couple of different outfits, or if it's a kind of show or something where they only wear the one outfit. So it's supposed to be her, isn't it? Then you can draw her in different like moods, different, like she's on to you now. Definitely draw her from like front, back, side, etc. Me personally, I have done a lot of stuff in 3D. I tend to be okay with able to like imagine things from the side. You should absolutely practice this, because a lot of people make what I call gingerbread people, where they can draw someone from the front and then you have them draw a human being from the side, and they're like, well, it's like this, right? No, it's not like this. It's like the neck goes like that. It's going to be a bit exaggerated, but like all human beings are like that. There's curves, there's depth. Go look at human beings from the side. If I were to talk about that like more generally, so your human brain is a magnificent tool, and the main thing that the human brain does is to ignore information. Like that is the difference between a person and a computer, is that a computer doesn't know how to not take information in, whereas the human brain is like constantly saying like, okay, that's not important, moving on. So one of the when you're making art, this is a problem, because or like in general, like this is why you can't just draw something that you've seen before, because your brain doesn't store the information about the thing that you've seen before. It stores like a very small part of that, and part of the deal with human bodies specifically is that your brain stores this specific information about their proportions, right? Your brain says quickly measure like, oh, like what's this person's build, right? Like, is this someone I should find cute and protect, or is this someone I should like go to for help? is this someone that I could beat in a fight? Is this someone that is prettier than me that I need to compete with for mates? Like all of those things. Like your brain is kind of taking in these very like basic information to make snap judgments about people. And one of the things that it doesn't bother with is what people look like from the side. So just it's funny to see it once it's been pointed out to you. Like you look at artists that draw like a lot of people that are like kind of on the verge of becoming a great artist, and then they'll try and draw someone from the side, and it's terrible. It's like there's nothing there. Certainly my earlier art, I've had episodes of that. So this is a shirt that should go like that. Anyway, yeah, so get online, look for reference. You cannot cure yourself of this without making an effort to do it. So like, and it's not just about like, oh, I know about this, I can fix it now. Like you really need to constantly work on that and like constantly make your brain adapt. One of the there's a couple of fun ways to do it. The classic one is to find a picture of something and turn it upside down. I'm going to use this guy for this because we're going to get into this in a second. So like if I were to draw him like that, I'd get a bunch of stuff wrong. If I do this. Nope. Well, I mean, that would probably work too. All of the way, 180. There you go. If I draw it like this, then I'm gonna like, my brain is forced to like not think about this as a normal human being, but just a collection of shapes. So it's gonna take in more information. Yeah, like this actually looks really weird upside down. Another way is to invert the colors. And this is especially helpful if you're learning to draw colors, I think. You can do that. You can put grid lines. Let's see, filters, render, grid, pattern, grid, boom, like that, and then just draw. I mean, like those are tiny, but just draw one grid square at a time. That can be helpful. There are programs where you can upload photographs to these websites and they'll turn it into a jigsaw puzzle for you. There's a lot of them. The one that I used to like doesn't seem to be around anymore. So, just go Google, make your own jigsaw puzzle and find your own favorite. Yeah, anyways, all right. Let's start talking about why this game is here, or why that guy is here. So, now that we have our character, we've got like this kind of reference point. And yeah, like pretend that we didn't have this. Like we've just been kind of drawing our character. We've made decisions about it. Like now we can decide things. So we can say like, all right, how tall was that supposed to be? What did that hair look like? Yada 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 yada. We have a reference image to come back to. We can certainly just ink over this and call this our sketch and be done. But no, I'm going to challenge you to go further. We also want to put this character in a fun pose. Let's actually make a new image for this. This is going to not be great for my computer's processing power. But here we go. Anyways, so because of the aforementioned thing that your human brain has about posing, you generally don't want to just think of a pose and draw it, especially when you're starting out. You want to actually work from reference. So, how do you get reference? So if you kind of like Google action pose, you can get a lot of like photographs of human beings like this, like that. Now the thing about people doing this is that they tend to look like dorks. And a lot of the time, yeah, I think when you're just kind of asked to get into a, do an action pose for me, you're going to do something dorky, it's not going to be something that kind of works in practical. There are also, you can look up like a lot of people who have done this kind of thing for practice. You should absolutely do this kind of thing for practice. Look for poses like that and draw it yourself. Now, I tend to be on the side of cartoons, and cartoons are like, really heavily stylized sort of cartoons. You've seen me do it. The issue with using someone else's work like this is that you're kind of losing a step in translation. It's like you had like an anime or a video game that was in Japanese and then translated into Russian and then translated into English. It's going to be one step more removed from reality. On the other hand, like the point is to make something that isn't particularly tethered in reality, like a freaking Allosaurus girl. It doesn't really matter, and it is absolutely helpful to see how other people approach unreality. Like there's definitely a big, it's very helpful to look at something like this, and you absolutely do get more from this than you would get from looking at that or looking at that. At the same time, personally, I think this artist is doing some of these perspective things very wrong, or at least overly exaggerated, or exaggerated to a point that I don't like. So you have to be careful about what you're absorbing. Like you don't just garbage in, garbage out. You want to kind of assess things well. So anyways, if you are looking for, we could start with something like this. If we worked from reference, again, if you just Google action pose, you get these people looking like dorks. One of the things you can actually do is look up real fighting techniques, because we live in a marvelous age where people just do this and explain it for you. I tend to look at HEMA stuff, which is kind of European knightly sword fighting. There's certainly a lot of kendo and kung fu that you can do. You can look up how to hold a gun if you are making stuff like this. Yeah, he's probably not doing it right. Another thing that I tried to do for this was to actually Google action movie scenes, and the problem with movie scenes is that they're designed to move, so you typically don't get a good single frame like this. If you're working on animation yourself, that's still very helpful to look at an actual movie scene. Look at the fight scenes from The Matrix, and do it as an artistic exercise. I think it can be useful to pick a few frames of a fight scene that you can't see very well and just try and work out what it actually is. How would you turn that into a a drawable situation. Let me take some beverage real quick. But these and HEMA or Kung Fu or Kendo tutorials, very nice because they'll often give you still shots of where the action is coming in. And this one was cool because they also did something like this, and this is where we point out, so it's not just about picking the character, picking the pose, it's also about picking the camera angle. And it's absolutely not actually called a camera angle if we were talking about this in art class, but you know what I mean. It's the camera angle. So as you can see, this is like much more dramatic, much more interesting than that. Like this is very like plain matter of fact. Like there's still action happening, but this suddenly has like emotion to it, or an emotional quality to it. You've kind of been put like into the you've really been like put into the scene by looking at it from here, which isn't at all what this video is trying to do. This video is basically just trying to teach you, but as artists, you get the idea. So yeah, so next step would be to do a pose, and so this is certainly my favorite pose of all of the poses that we came across. Oh, I was going to say yes. So certainly, like a lot of my stuff, I tend to end up doing animation for video games, and so something like this, which isn't a particularly helpful or comfortable pose to stand in, like you can kind of make that work for a single picture, but once you're actually like trying to like go from pose to pose, like do actual actions, the more realistic the better. Like you will very quickly start running into problems if you start trying to like sword fight from a stance like that. And like it's not, obviously this isn't the pose that you would sword fight from, but you get the idea. Like if you start from something like this, and like this is a tad boring. Like you could certainly start exaggerating this a bit. Exaggeration is one of the important 12 principles of animation that you definitely need to do. But yeah, and also like there's like I watch HEMA videos a lot. There's a lot of people find it very frustrating that real kind of real combat has been so like completely buried because of people like me who exaggerated a lot. So yeah, there's a certain like there's a certain duty to like doing it right in the first place. So anyways, all right, we're gonna do the pose. So like certainly I think this is my favorite one of everything that we've found so far, and not just because his legs are cut off. So let's try and start with something like that. So like we certainly could so like copy this, do like colors, probably desaturate. Colors, colorize. Here you saw me do it before. Yeah, just so I can see it. And then do a new layer, and I could like start. Whoops. We're taking these, and I definitely think that this is a helpful. You can see me. This is kind of exaggerating. Like I'm kind of giving it a bit more twist than he actually is. And this is certainly helpful to learn how to draw poses like this, is to go over that and draw the actual pose. But for what we're doing, it's, we already went to all of that trouble to, like work out our proportions and whatnot. Which would be interesting. We could measure their proportions, but there's a problem. Yeah, but we're not going to. Anyways, yeah. So what we're actually going to do is just try and, yeah, just kind of like take this image and kind of make our own poses based on it. All right. So one way to do it, oh yeah, is to like kind of remember what we were just looking at. Let me get those. Just kind of go here, but as you can see, trying to go quickly and screwing up. Let's see. So what? Okay, hang on. First mistake that Ace just made. Let's just delete that. Yeah. Also, I guess this is blind, so we can flip it this way. All right. What I should have done is drawn the shoulders, or where they go, and then draw the hands. Let's just look at it. Here's the reference. The reference is here to be used. Let's see, the other hand is back here. Okay. And now draw. And kind of now to keep that in the middle. Where's this elbow? Is this elbow up? Yeah. Yeah, I kind of think that's it's probably not the system. Yeah, and this is hard. I can't make this not hard. I mean, the way to do this is to do it and then go over it and go over it until it becomes smooth. And I know this gets kind of tricky. Where's his sword going actually? So his sword is straight. Oh boy. Is it that straight? Yes, so. There you go. Close enough. So one of the my favorite definitions of bravery is that it's not being scared. It's about doing it anyway, or doing what you have to do anyway. Drawing with the mouse, it's not about being good. It's about getting it done anyway. So, because frankly, frankly, that's how all art is. That's the thing. If being good with the mouse is just about being good with art. So, I want, yeah. Some of this curve in there. It's better to do curves and tapers. It's actually, this is always tricky for me doing the hips. Yeah, not to wimp out on you guys, but this is absolutely, doing this kind of thing just brings me back to why I switched to making 3D art. If you really want to make good art with the mouse, do it in Blender. Okay. Which isn't even why I switched to Blender. It's part of why, because I always think it's not what swords look like, but whatever. Let me 3D this. Can't think in 3D. So okay, so that's there, yeah. And then, I think this hand would be a little bit more up. So you really can't see it though, but okay. Well, ours is a little bit different. Ours doesn't need to be, or we're not graded on this, right? There isn't some professor that's going to come look at us and say, "Oh, you didn't quite match the pose." We can get our benefit from it, and then leave and never tell anybody that it's based on anything. And they'll say, oh my gosh, you're such a good artist. You drew that with a mouse? Incredible. So there we go. So does that make sense? We're kind of foreshortening this. I absolutely cannot teach you how to do foreshortening. Like, you just, that's the kind of thing you just have to do it until it looks right. So this is, yeah, because we're moving our hands around, so we need to also move around our elbows here, our whole arm. Yeah, and I honestly think this is what a lot of the people who are out there making not so good art is because, you know, they're not any worse at it than I am, except that they just don't stop. Or yeah, except that they stop too soon. So we go, what's the tail doing? This is the problem with anthro characters, is that it could be up there, maybe it'd be up higher. Is because I can't look at any sort of reference to determine what a swordsman does with his tail, because no one has ever sword fought with a tail. Explain how to do this with faces. There's a actually, that's not the eye that we gave her before. Let's stick with the same. Let's see, how would you turn these eyes into angry eyes? Would that be enough? Would you want to leave it like that, actually? I think this looks weird because it's floating in space. Let's give it a double. So like more than that. That's not nearly angry enough. It's close. There you go, like that. Okay, alright, okay. And this is absolutely why when you make a reference sheet, you should draw your character in multiple emotional states. And certainly, like, if you get to here and think like, oh, I'm not sure how this character would look when they're angry, don't try it out here with the perspective and everything. You know, try it out somewhere like that. Okay, so now I have done this, and then the trick to doing stuff like that in perspective is just kind of like imagine that there's like a TV screen on top of the face like that. Don't actually leave that there because it's going to be a bitch to erase. And then just kind of think about projecting. Actually, get really cheap. Hang on. This will be a good visual demonstration. Technically, it's cheating, but what about this? There you go. Right over there. Okay. But this is like how you're kind of thinking about this in your head. Let's actually layer transparency, color to alpha. Let's do that. That's annoying. Well, alright, fine. Hang on, sorry. There. No, use the perspective tool. So I'm not sure I necessarily recommend doing it this way. Yeah, for real, but certainly like the whole gist of this step is we're making guides to kind of like help us out. That's kind of in the right place, yeah, and I can sort of redo this nose over here. Here we go. No. No. Yes. Oh, let's merge that down. Yeah, so like technically your face does kind of like wrap around, so we would want to that's not what I wanted. Just this bit of it. Whoa. Let's try that. Yeah, come on. Yeah, there you go. So more like that. All right. So anyways, so what you technically should be doing is doing a process like that in your head. So like kind of take this and just think to yourself like, how do I scooch that around? Put it down there. Probably the right way to do this would be to put that down as its own layer, like as a guide, and then draw over it with the real thing that you're doing. Let's just do hair first. There. Yeah. So let's kind of floof the hair a bit. It's kind of action, floofy hair. So probably like flapping around back there to shave like a dangly bit. Kind of up in her face as she does that. If I were being a real artist, I would think about, is there any, like, why is it going in this direction? I feel like because it seems like she's moving kind of this away, so her hair would be kind of lagging behind going that away. Cartoons, I don't know that it matters, just kind of, as long as there's movement, it'll look dramatic. Okay. Let's get this t-shirt on there before we get in trouble. You can kind of, same thing with the t-shirt. I'm going to tell you, I don't know how far. Notice she's not looking at the action, right? So we want to be looking at Clunk right there. Oh, maybe she is. Hang on. I guess I was thinking the action's out here. I'm not looking at like right there. All right. What's his guard? He's got the cruciform. Okay. Might draw like an actual like oh, she got it. This doesn't make any sense because that's where the shoulder is. That's where the hand is. We're going forward. So another way to think about perspective like this with the is to kind of imagine like this 3D-ness of it with these like contours, right? So if you imagine there's like a grid, what do you call it? Like a wireframe grid on the surface of the shape that you're making. Now this is super helpful when it comes to shading. It doesn't really matter if we're doing like a very like liney. Oh yeah, what color was this? Because this isn't actually black, is it? Okay. That's too much. Also, like this is perspective too. Like you don't think about this kind of thing as perspective, but yes, putting things in front of other things is also perspective. So you know how to draw perspective, at least one kind. Oh, that could be an interesting topic. That I hate. That's another on the long list of things, which is why I do 3D and not this anymore. Is I don't have to think about perspective. And so then we want like how much? It's really like none of them. So like ours, we could. Yeah, ours we could do that. And his is also cut off with more down there that we can do. So he also allegedly got his other hand on there. I'm gonna look at it. This time we're doing our own thing. There we go. So there's that. So we could draw him kind of leaning in like this, getting hit, or kind of like reacting to it. It makes it look kind of tempy. Let's do like that. I do still have the nice smooth stroke on the eraser. We don't need that for sketching. So I turned that off ages ago, or turned that down ages ago. So there's like that. Yeah, not super into this face, how this turned out. Okay, so what we would do. What's the best way to do that? I mean, I guess it's to do like this. So we'll pick like a really bright color. Get on top of that that's bright so that I can see it. So let's see, what do I actually want to change? Because I'm just kind of drawing the exact same thing right now. So there's more like that. More of a line mark there. And this is actually what I said you should have done to begin with. Is to just use that perspective-y eyeball thing as a guide. Maybe you should keep your mouth closed. Let's kind of see what that looks like. And that's, I know, is, yeah, ooh, that's part of it. It's got this like big kind of size difference between various thicknesses here. So maybe just keep it, yeah, there you go, like grimaced. Like that. Also, this could be bigger. This is what's going on. Yeah, let's do. All right, let's start erasing this. Their hair is, I think, mostly where we like it. So I'm gonna mess with that. Just gonna make sure we get that lift in the lower lid. I feel like we do want her to be looking at here, because it looks kind of more like she's looking in here. I think there. Yeah, I mean, because you could be looking at there. I think here. So like, all right. So this is more. So like kind of up and sideways than where she was looking before. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. Yeah, and you know, like this is just might be about it for me. Like this is just how to do it. Let's start increasing our smooth stroke for the leg. You know, you get to yourself thinking like, I think that's about where that leg should go. Just start doing a better job. Kind of erasing your old lines. And certainly you don't need to be doing this on like separate layers like I am. Like you could just, you know, kind of erase it and go over like we did back over here. Whatever is easier for you. Yeah, it's just like she doesn't look cute anymore. I mean, I guess, I don't know, she's chopping a guy's neck, but Okay, part of this is because like we're here, like the eyes are taking up most of the face, and we've kind of reverted back to a more human normal look, or more human normal proportion for those. So let's fix it. There's also like this kind of muzzle shape, I think. I've gone too deep with it, but yeah, like absolutely not at all uncommon for me to just like kind of let's kind of go with a simpler thing. Actually, I guess the mouth is okay. We can just kind of put that back. Grimace. There we go. Yeah, so that, yeah, there we go. It's like more, it's more of that cartoony look. The eyes are a little off now. Let's try that again. Let's actually look at this from here. Yeah, so that's probably, yeah, what we do is just kind of keep going over this, like kind of slowly increase that smooth stroke. This is like, yeah, I think the eyebrow probably was the right proportion to begin with. Let me get rid of that for a second. It's like that. Yeah, I like this better. Well, it does need to go closer down to the eyeball. There we go. Get rid of some of these. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Maybe just take it a little more shorter with the muzzle. There you go. There you go. I think Allosauruses have a particularly long muzzle. Not kind of, but yeah, see, now I'm getting stuff on both layers and making a mess. Yeah, and then you say to yourself, like, all right, let's do this. Well, do this on a new layer. Actually, let's do it on an even newer layer. Yeah, it's just all right. Too much. Kind of more. So actually, let me get those angry eyes. All right. Like this. Yeah, and then kind of erase that. Yeah, there you go. Of course, now the tail's kind of in the way. We just have it pointing like up like this. No, just go back to red. Just gonna get the whole big old floof back there, the hair. Might kind of want to do like more lean, so let's kind of explain how to do that. I really need to I don't want to actually finish this because I think if I was going to do this for real, it's just like a whoops. Oh, it's here. Actually, wait. This is on multiple layers now, isn't it? So it's just merged down. Single layer. Control Shift L. Rotate. There we go. So she's kind of like more leaning into this swing, and like kind of like more leaning away from this attack. Okay. There you go. Yeah. All right. So basically, yeah, I think you get the idea. So you're just going to kind of keep going over your old lines, fixing them, molding it into shape. I forget if I used this analogy on this video, but you don't want to think of it like as writing. You want to think of this as like working with clay. So just as you take like a big lump of clay and kind of like, push it and push it and push it and molding it into new shapes until you get one that you're happy to stick with. Yeah, and then basically you keep doing that until you get to a point where, you have something that you say like, well, that's good enough. We can start doing that inking process and go back to, where we ended up back in the first video. We can leave that up. Why not? Yeah. So there you go. Hope you found that helpful. Go forth and conquer.